Hello and welcome to the Guitar Hang Podcast. I'm your host, John Stancorb. Today we're delving into the world of the incredibly talented Jeff Pevar. You might recognize Jeff from his remarkable journey through various musical projects and collaborations, including his work with Marc Cohn, Bette Midler, Ray Charles, CPR, Crosby, Stills and Nash, and his recent endeavor, the Gilmore Project. Jeff's name is synonymous with musical versatility and excellence. We're in for a real treat as we talk about his epic career, creative adventures, and what fuels his music. Please make sure you hit the subscribe button below and ring the bell for notifications. And now, let's hang with Jeff Pevar. Very cool, man. It's interesting, and I think you might feel this way when things, these tragedies happen. We lose people. There's always a yin and a yang. It's sometimes never as big as the loss, but at least it awakens something. I've rediscovered, or not rediscovered, I discovered some music that I just absolutely adore in the wake of David passing. Some of it I was aware of, but I revisited again, and that first CPR album just so good.
Thank you. I'm quite proud of it, I have to say.
Yeah.
And I haven't really listened to too much because I'm still just allowing myself to grieve. But as I talked to a friend of mine today, you know, the condition that David's body was in after, and these are his own words, treating himself like a human chemical waste dump for so many years. The fact that he had someone else's liver, the fact that he had numerous stents in his heart. My friend said, I mean, this guy beat all the odds. Sure. You know, he won. He lasted to be 81 with all those things against him. I mean, he's a marvel of science, you know?
Yeah.
And I say that because I've been weeping and going through so much sorrow that I'm trying to also let that evolve into some healthy, certainly joy and celebration of his life and celebration of the opportunities the two of us had to make music together and celebrate, you know, our friendship.
Yeah. It's such a beautiful thing that you shared with me, the fact that he reached out to you not that long ago, because you just were in his mind and his heart, and just an outpouring of love. Sometimes those kind little things just have a huge effect on us.
Of course. Well, you know, it's this message that he left for me about 6 months ago. And I'm sure I heard it at the time, and maybe I was kind of, you know, in the middle of doing a million other things. But the day after he died, some friends were trying to reach me, sent me a text that my phone message machine was full on my phone. So I went and started deleting messages. And then here I see this beautiful message from David telling me how much he loved the way I played. And it was like a gift from the beyond. I'm just so grateful to have that whenever I'm feeling pangs of sorrow. I just know and can hear the way he's telling me that he loves me and appreciates my work. It's what a gift. What a gift. Yeah.
It's doing a little bit of looking into the evolution of your career. It's amazing how what I hear in your playing recently, it seems like there's a sensibility that I could trace back to the duo thing with Marc Cohn. The way that you served the song.
Oh, thank you.
And what better way of doing that night after night in front of an audience of any size, but to be the two of you where you're serving the song. It's such a great way of not many players have that experience to back up a vocalist in a way that's elevating the song, not just comping, but elevating through lyrical call and response ideas. And just it reminded me of Larry Carlton's work on Court and Spark, the Joni. I could easily, it's kind of a lineage. I could hear Larry Carlton, Robin Ford, yourself, very supportive for the song, just great parts
Well, you bring up the two of them because they were both hugely impactful into
Yeah.
my playing.
Yeah.
How I heard them transcend the guitar as an instrument versus being an ensemble instrument that could be
Right.
strings, it could be, the river, it could be, anything beyond guitar. So I love the idea that I could that the guitar is this malleable instrument, and then working like with a volume pedal and maybe some
Right.
delay or effects and just melody
Right.
to be able to like you say, support a song and add some flavor to it, some ambience, some just exactly what you said, and that's something that I initially learned from listening to the two of them, and
Yeah.
of course all the other guitar players and musicians that I've been a fan of.
Yeah. It seems like it may have been like a lineage being like a Jeff Beck,
Mm-hmm.
Gilmore, Peter Green,
Mm-hmm.
Larry Carlton, Robin, and then all
Yeah, well,
those, and being an amalgamation of all those influences.
yeah, well, there's a number of guys. I mean, it started off, listening to Creedence, and
Oh,
my
yeah.
first guitar solo was, Born
Right.
on the Bayou or something
Right.
like that, just
Right.
simple pentatonic. But I mean, it was
Yeah.
so gutsy and beautiful, so impactful. And of course, Hendrix and Beck and Alvin Lee and Lowell George and Ry Cooder, and, the
Oh,
list
yeah.
goes on and on,
David Lindley. Yeah.
Sure,
Yeah. Your playing evokes that as well. The Lindley thing, how he's so supportive. I've got an
thank
album of David and uh, Jackson Brown together.
you.
Just beautiful the way he supports the songs.
Well, I have a
So
couple of videos with David Lindley. I opened for him at a
yeah,
concert, and he brought me on stage, and we ended up doing about 3 different songs together, and they're all on YouTube, and I'm very, very proud of them because he had never really heard me play,
yeah,
kind of very much, and he was being brave to bring me out, but we totally hit it off, and we were going back and forth. I was playing slide, and he was playing his Weisenborn, and it was really, really fun. It's kind of cool to look at the video and see, he's kind of digging in there, and I'll play something. I could see his smile on his face, a smirk. He was like, "Oh, this guy can
yeah,
play."
yeah. There seems to be an unspoken thing when you arrive amongst those players,
Hmm.
James Taylor, David Crosby, Jackson Brown, Marc Cohn, those guys, that
Mhm.
even if you haven't worked with them before, it's kind of an unspoken thing. You're
In the camp.
you're in the camp. You're in the
Yeah.
family,
Yeah.
or Danny Cord. I saw a beautiful thing of you and Danny Korchmar doing Aretha Franklin tune. I'm like, man, that's just so cool.
Oh yeah, thank you. I love Danny, and he's
Yeah.
another guy I
Another,
listen to, because I was a huge James Taylor fan. So listening to all those records, it's interesting, being a self-taught musician versus studying, with other people, you develop a propensity for becoming kind of a sponge of everything you've ever heard, and it all kind of gets in there. And whether you're playing, yeah, I'm going to play a Jim Messina because he's another one that I adore his playing. I'm going to play a Jim Messina lick. It's not like that. It's like your playing becomes your playing, and then I'll sometimes notice, like even on that first CPR record, there's a song called That House,
yeah,
and listening to Jim Messina play with Loggins and Messina, because I loved that band, and I loved just the melodicism in that band and how they used, horns and strings, in a beautiful way. But Jimmy played with his fingers a lot, and you could hear that sound. And that's something that I have gravitated towards a lot because I feel like I can really control the velocity of the string that way. So I'm kind of going back and forth, but I'm often have a pick in my mouth when I'm
yeah,
deciding what I'm going to do next.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. There's a thing that I picked up from when I started doing the Pink Floyd gig about 15 years ago, when I started playing lap steel using my fingers, well,
nice.
with the bar and the
Yeah.
volume pedal. That transferred a lot into the way that I've thought about using a volume pedal and my fingers for certain.
Nice.
Yeah, it's just just a very tactile way of very, very touch sensitive, interactive thing where you can
control the velocity more than a pick. And it's a different sound. It's a rounder sound, you know.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, listen to Mark Knopfler, you know, what he's able to do with his fingers. And yeah, so, you know, I mean, ultimately, the thing that's beautiful about music is that no matter how hard we try, if we try to sound like someone else, we're going to be ourselves. No one can be anyone else. And there's something fun for me about emulating other players. When I joined David Crosby and Graham Nash, we were playing a lot of CSN songs. And of course, I would learn and honor, tip the hat to Stephen. You know, we're playing Wooden Ships. I would kind of play his intro, and because it's part of the song. These guys are composers, and it's not just the lyric, it's the melodies that are happening. So I'm a big fan of melody, and I'm not a big fan of how fast guitar players can play. Not to say that a well-placed, you know, intricate run isn't moving and emotional, but if that's all they do, I get bored. I'd rather hear. And actually, I have a great quote from Ray Charles. I was in his studio because I toured with Ray for a while, and he asked me to record in a studio with him. And I brought a little cassette machine. At that time, it was cassettes, right? A little cassette machine to just put it in the corner so I could grab some of the interactions so I could listen to it later, because I had stars in my eyes. You know, I couldn't believe I was there. And he goes, Jeff, I learned one thing from a man who's dead now, Basie, Count Basie. He never played a lot of notes, but every goddamn one of them he did play meant something. And I found out, man, that's the key. It's not how many you play, it's what you got in each note. I got that recorded, and it's like the sage, you know, the master. I was Grasshopper. He's the master, you know.
Yeah, there's so many wonderful musicians that you've played with, but it seems like that Ray has to be Mount Olympus. I don't know if there's a lot of younger players that just totally miss the Ray Charles thing and how important he is,
right,
as a musician, as a just yeah. So I can't even, and the fact of how great his ears were and just his sensibility, the groove, the pocket. You know?
Yes, the pocket. We would be in a rehearsal with a full his entire orchestra, you know, the big band, and this is at his rehearsal room in LA, and we'd go through a track, and he'd stop in the middle of it. He goes, third trombone, that's an A flat on bar 33. You know, it's like, wow. Yeah, right. You know, he could just hear it all, and it was challenging, certainly, because he loved blues, and I loved to play for him, and I learned early on I could get Ray Charles to scream in delight with the right place. And what an epiphany for a 26 or 27-year-old kid playing guitar for Ray Charles, that I realized, oh my God, you know, I'd do something, you know, that he'd turn around and go, oh, you nasty boy. So, oh my God, what an epiphany. So I was out to kind of, quote unquote, get him every night, you know, kind of like you're at the skeet shoot, you know, it's like, you're trying to hit the bell, and then I'll play something. Oh, you know, it was so obvious that he was digging it. And the band leader, Clifford Solomon, who's just a beautiful man, he'd come up to me just, you know, first or second show. He goes, the old man sure do like you, you know. So it was quite a affirmation for me as a young man to get seen. And then he asked me to come out to his studio. So I worked with him, just the two of us. So that was an amazing opportunity.
Yeah, to be that age and to be out on the road touring the world with Ray Charles, I don't know that there's any better training ground for that. I mean, just because exactly what you described, I think it's very easy, especially when you're young and doing a lot of touring, not phoning it in, but you kind of get into a groove where you know the material, you know, you get your spots to improvise and do that sort of, but you may feel like you're trotting familiar ground. With what it sounds to me like is you are inspired every night, every performance, every song to try to deliver something.
Yeah, well, it was a fantastic opportunity because I'm not a good reader. And there was charts put in front of me. And fortunately, in the big band, the guitar is more so Charlie Christian, you're playing rhythm, you're a rhythm instrument, you're in the rhythm section, so the bass and the piano and the organ, all of the four of you or five of you are kind of as one thing. And then of course the horns are handling all the other stuff. But there was notation written. And fortunately, no one was coming next to me going, wait a minute, you're not playing all that other stuff down, which was beautiful because the reason why people ask me to play is because they aren't opening up a can of another guitar players and then just play what's on the page. They want me to play because I bring my musicality to the stage or to the studio or whatever. Unfortunately, that has been my saving grace, if you will, because I didn't take the time as a young guy to learn how to read well. And fortunately, I've been able to skate through my career because what I hear and what I'm able to bring as let's just say a composer on guitar has allowed me to play with people, and they allow me to pretty much do what I do. And of course, if any artist is looking for something specific, I'm all ears. I'm ready to do whatever I can. So then the artists that did require me to read, I would ask for the charts like a month in advance, and just figure out, all right, what can I get away with, and then just figure out, how can I best serve the music and serve as Jeff Pevar instead of just another guitar player of a million who could play the spots on the page.
Sure, and I think that's what it sounds like, for lack of a better word, you were playing with legacy player, or you were being hired by legacy musicians, and they were looking for that thing that, wow, that's when Crosby discovered you, he heard something in you that was echoing something from the past, but it was completely fresh and something new. So that's what artists, I think, are looking for, is what can Jeff bring to the table?
Thank you. And Crosby, Stills, and Nash had a bit of a history of, let's just say, each personality had their own dynamics involved. And, Stephen Stills, I mean, he's an icon, and I've been really honored, to get to know him and play on stage with him. And I think for Graham and David to get out and play as Crosby and Nash, there was something really exciting for them to play with a player like me who had a wide range of musicality, because I've also gone into the jazz realm, and I've gone into, look, every musician brings their own treasure to the table. And so there'll never be another Stephen Stills, and what he brought to their music and what the music they did together, it's music history. But I also know, and David said to me, and he said to the press at times, that I was the best guitar player he had ever played with. Now, he tends to brag, and then he would say that he's going out with the most beautiful woman in the world and that kind of thing. So I take all that stuff in stride, and I don't get, I don't do a trip on myself about it. I know that he appreciated me.
Oh,
and
sure.
He saw me, what I was able to bring to the table. So I'm thrilled to have had this opportunity to play trio with David and Graham, and then do duo with David, and then play in various ensembles with David over the years, and then be invited to write songs with his newly discovered son, James Raymond, and an opportunity to not only be a participant in a father and son reunion, but a voyeur and participant. And so what an exciting opportunity to write songs with the two of them.
Yeah, I thought that album in particular had just so many standout tunes. The song Morrison just lays me every time, and the guitar playing, and It
Take.
what's
First
that?
take. That's the first
That
take.
was the first take.
No
Yeah.
overdub. Yeah.
Yeah, I performed with the Steely Dan tribute band for years, and it was always on my bucket list to play Asia in its entirety. So I'm a huge Steely Dan fan, and I know Crosby is too, and I'm sure you are, and James. But that groove, that outro groove, reminds me of the groove, the Pretzel Logic.
Sure.
Slightly
Well,
different tempo, but the feel, and
yeah,
I
well,
just
everyone
love.
was.
Oh man,
Everyone, like you say, was a huge Steely Dan fan, and it's apparent in a lot of the writing on that record. And James Raymond brought a lot of that influence to David's music because David loved everything that James brought to the table. And even after CPR, James went on to produce many of David's records and write songs. Just a brilliant songwriter. So it was beautiful to be at the inception of that relationship and encourage that let's just say transition from I don't know who you are, but you're my father into them just like jumping, beyond. So
and that I saw a little clip that Lee Sklar had put up, a little video playing through some of those songs and kind of talking about that.
Yes.
What period of time, or is this the late night, like 97, 98?
Yeah, I think 98 was the year we went into the studio, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah. Yep.
And
98.
so kind of give me a rough idea when you started playing. I mean, was this something that started in elementary school or high school, or how did it evolve?
Well, it started seeing the Beatles on Ed Sullivan, and then I caught the bug, like most of us
Right.
who caught that disease at the same time.
Yeah.
And then I was playing in bands with guys older than me when I was 15, playing in nightclubs. In fact, one of the guys in the band said, "Yeah, I remember your mom used to drive you to rehearsals, and we'd have somebody come get you, for the gig. And there was this little kid playing guitar who knew how to play Steely Dan's what's it? I remember 35th Street goodbyes."
Yeah.
My old school. I had learned that solo. We were playing Whipping Post. We're
Right.
For a little whippersnapper, he was kind of on his way to knowing a certain amount of musicality at a young age that, the 18 and 19 and even older people who would come to the club would just go, "Hey, this kid's got something." So, it was very exciting to whet my whatever, to get into performing that early in my development and play with guys who were older than I. And then it kind of moved forward to, let's see, well, Rickie Lee Jones was kind of my first tour. She had put out a record called Pirates. Mm-hmm. And I have a very, very dear friend named Michael Ruff, who was playing keyboards for her and her band leader. Michael and I attempted to grow up together. We know each other from Connecticut. Michael is yet another Connecticut boy done good. He's played with so many people. And he's written some great songs. He wrote "Cry on My Shoulder" for Bonnie Raitt. He toured with Lionel Richie. He toured with Chaka Khan. The list goes on. And he's an artist in his own right. He got signed to Warner Brothers, and to his credit, he brought out his homeboy to play on a couple songs. Nice. But he had like Steve Gadd, and he had all the great LA guys playing on the record. Tommy LaPuma was producing. So I was very honored to get asked to play on a couple of those songs. But Michael was instrumental in getting me in Rickie's band, because he called me up one day and just said, "If you want to fly yourself out, I'll get you an audition." And I even kind of tanked the first audition because I was so nervous, but he knew I could do it. And he said, "Jeff, I know you didn't feel that great today. Just stay in town and keep working on the tunes, because we're going to just keep, kind of playing with different players and blah, blah, blah." And I was working on this stuff at his house for the next 4 or 5 days. And he goes, tomorrow come in, and it's not an audition, it's a rehearsal. So that was his way to kind of like calm me down, right?
Right.
And I just started playing with the band, and he wanted his homeboy in for the tour. So we were dear friends, and that was kind of the first tour that I did. This is 1983. So,
Right.
And then 84, I had the opportunity with Ray Charles,
Right.
which is kind of a long story. So I don't know if you want to hear all that, but it's a great story.
Yeah. I'd be happy to hear. That's very
Yeah.
good. I mean, he's
all right. So it's here I am living in Hartford, Connecticut area, and I'm playing in different bands. At that point, I think I'm playing with a band called Street Temperature, and it's fusion music. So we're playing, Jeff Lorber songs and Weather Report songs, and just all different types of instrumental stuff. All instrumental.
Was it Billy Cobham stuff as well, or
not as fusion-y as that. A lot of more kind of melodic fusion.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
There was a flute player, there was a horn player, keyboard player. So anyway, Tom Scott, a lot of that music. So I noticed that Ray Charles was playing in New Haven, Connecticut, that on a Friday night that I happened to have off. And I said to myself, I got to go see this Ray Charles guy. I've heard about him my whole life, and I've never really had a chance to see what it's all about. Right. So I thought I would go. The day of the show, I get a phone call from my friend, actually, who was the horn player in the band. And he said, listen, our friend Morris, who is a multi-instrumentalist, a bass player, a trumpet player, blah, blah, blah. He had been trying to get into the Ray Charles Orchestra, and he had sent them tapes of his playing and this and that to play as a bass player. They called him because their guitar player had gotten fired and asked if he knew anyone. And Morris said he tried to call me, but I don't know. He went and did the gig. But I found out from my friend that Morris was called to do the gig, and my friend said, you should go down and get that gig. So at the time, I wasn't real deep friends with Morris yet, although years later we became incredible friends. So I went down, and at that time, I had just been in the studio with Ricky Lee Jones playing on a record called The Magazine, and there happened to be a really great a great review in Rolling Stone about the record, and it said, quote unquote, and the graceful pluck and weave of Jeff Pevar's guitar on the song It Must Be Love, blah, blah, blah. So it's like, what am I going to take? All right, I'll take my Rolling Stone with me as my, this is my portfolio, if you will.
Coincidentally, the title of your first solo album was Pluck and Weave.
Yeah, right. There you go. Yeah. Good idea. So, so I go down, and I got there early because I know musicians show up and they do the sound check and blah, blah, blah. So this big Trailways kind of bus pulls up, and musicians start filing out. And I went up to the first guy I could talk to, and I said, hey, could you tell me who your band leader is? And he pointed me to Clifford Solomon. I said, Clifford, I hear, your guitar player left or quit or whatever. I'm interested in the job. He goes, okay, cool. Well, listen, we're going inside to set up. Why don't you come on in and I'll talk to you? And so they set up, they're doing 2 shows that night. So they're setting up, and he comes over to me, he goes, why don't you check out the gig, from side stage, and I'll talk to you during the break. So my now friend Morris is, I could see him nervous. His hands are shaking. He's putting the charts on the podium and they're falling off, and he's, trying, he's getting his way through it. And so you've seen the movie Animal House with the angel, right? It's an analogy all the time. So the devil's going, dude, you don't fucking read, and you can't do this gig. You're just not good enough. And the angel's going, Jeff, this is blues. It's R&B. You bring your musicality. Look what you've been able to do. Your whole life. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
The break happens. He comes over to me. He goes, if Clifford Solomon comes over to me, the band leader, goes, so what do you think? I go, I'm really interested. He said, do you have a tape? I said, no, but I'll be right back. I got in my car. I drove from New Haven to Hartford, which normally is about an hour. I think I got there in about 35 minutes. Just screaming. I have a very dear friend in my life named Doug Cupper, who was the man who first recognized my talents as a young Studio 2B player. And because I did a project at his studio, and he started hiring me for a bunch of things. And then, out of generosity of his heart and our friendship, he gave me the keys to his studio. And I would go in at night and record. I would use his little 8-track machine. He had an MCI, reel to reel, and he would trust me because he showed me how to set up everything. He would allow me to record. And there was a couple projects he had, one gospel project that he had already mixed. And he said, hey, if you want to have some fun with this, you could play guitar over all these changes and stuff and just turn off the vocals. So I got to the studio. I already had mixes of that stuff and just the bluesiest R&B stuff that I could. I put 3 songs on a cassette as fast as I could, dumped them off, drove back while the Ray Charles Band is doing their second show that evening, drove back, and as I pull in, they're getting on the bus, and I run up to the open door of the bus. I say, Clifford, here's my tape. I gave him my tape. I got the call the next day to drive to New York to audition. And they said, be in Brooklyn, 2 nights from now. And that's how I got the gig.
That's an amazing story. I mean, it's something that, you'd expect to see in a full-length motion picture. I mean, that's just, right. and if you could pause the tape at that point and have somebody come up to a narrator to your story and say, okay, here's what's going to happen from this point forward. There's no way that anyone could prepare you for all the things to come, and even now, all the things that are in front of you. And it's just I
hope so.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing what we get to do, right?
It's amazing. And it's interesting because as time has gone by, I've tried to I've incorporated a more let's say spiritual concept to all this. So it's like, and in fact, my friend Michael Ruff said something to me very early on, and it was such a deep message. He said, Jeff, I see you trying so hard. You don't have to try so hard. Just accept that you have the gift. And it took me 20, 30 years to even get close to understanding what he was saying. But he was a child prodigy, so that was easy for him because things just off of him. Like, it's like, oh my God, he's playing like a 60-year-old jazz, master at, 15. He was, it just, some people, it comes that quick.
Right.
But I like this idea of that, if we get out of our own way and we allow the music to play us instead of trying to control everything and get your ego and, I hope I sound good and I'm not, you're thinking about yourself instead of just being a conduit for the music and letting the music play you. So you're just in this Zen place of being a piece of something much bigger than you are. That I love that kind of idea. And that's kind of what I'm always striving for. If I notice myself getting too much in here, I just try to get more in here and get out of the way.
It seems like that I'm only guessing based on things who I think the players are that you're playing with now in the Gilmore project, but it seems like you have a lot of like-minded guys in Prairie and the different guys in the band that you probably all are in that space, in that headspace, I would think.
Everyone has their own headspace, and it's kind of a miracle, this whole music thing that we've decided to go after, right? Yeah. You're getting together with people that are initially often complete strangers, and you are attempting to kind of cohabitate in this very intimate dance together. And some chemistries are easier than others, and some chemistries you have to dance around a little bit. And, so, and the project came to me from a man named Michael Gaiman, who's hired me to do numerous projects, beginning with the band Jazz is Dead,
Right.
which he called me to do after I played with Phil Lesh, and had to learn 70 Grateful Dead songs for that tour, to play the music of the Grateful Dead in a jazz fusion instrumental interpretive way. Right. And that was very much more creating our own grooves and our own vision to the Grateful Dead material than this band that is more so leaning towards the inception of the Pink Floyd material, but then taking some artistic license. But, you know, the Grateful Dead leaned towards jam anyway. Right. They were one of the, dare I say, original jam bands, and inspired a million jam bands. But the Pink Floyd music, you know, to come out and play Shine on You Crazy Diamond as a shuffle, I don't think it would work. So, so it's exciting. And he hired me to be the band leader, although, you know, that's kind of a title versus when you're playing with musicians of this stature, really everyone kind of is the captain of their own chair, and they let you know if your idea isn't really what they're comfortable with, which I understand, you know, because I as a band leader for an ensemble of accomplished musicians, I don't feel like it's my place to tell people if they don't want to learn this specific guitar part, then I honor that, and I say, well, you can hear what's there, come up with your own part, and I'm sure it'll be great. You know, right. And there is something nice about that, because there already was a Pink Floyd, and no one can be that. That being said, just as when we were playing Wooden Ships and I was playing lines of Stephen Stills, I'm playing many of the most iconic Gilmour solos, because to me, that's the melody of the song. And I did a lot of investigative work to even, you know, look for pedals and combinations of pedals to try to emulate a similar sound, just because, you know, if I went to see a band like that and some guy, you know, started playing a different solo in the middle of Comfortably Numb, I'd go, oh man, you know, I'm missing that iconic melody. That's just as important as the lyric, you know. So it's an interesting opportunity yet again, because I've had these incredible opportunities, you know, from playing the music of Crosby, Stills and Nash, from playing the music of Jefferson Airplane, from playing the music of Bette Midler, from playing the music of the Grateful Dead, you know, various bands that I've been asked to kind of be a conduit and a visionary on my instrument to assist with that music. To do that with the Gilmour project is yet another challenge and an exciting endeavor. And it's not, you know, it's not like I was a rabid Pink Floyd fan, but I had incredible respect for the music. And of course, Dark Side of the Moon and, you know, some of those earlier records, Metal, you know, with Echoes. I mean, that opened up a lot of gateways in my creative mind, you know, to hear Echoes as a budding, you know, teen guitar player, and then just like, it inspired me like on numerous evenings to just turn up a lot of reverb and take a slide and just go, you know what I mean? Because it's they kind of paved the way for that type of behavior in a way of opening creative doors sonically for the guitar. And so it's a beautiful thing that any of us can not only be inspired by that, but continue that type of behavior, and whether we're attempting to recreate a similar type of thing, playing those songs, or do that in other music. It just opens up your dynamic mind of what's possible.
Right. Are there any projects that are near and dear to you, or that you're currently, besides the Gilmour project? That
Well, yeah, I'm always working on my own music, and I'm always working on music that my wife and I work on together. We put out a 5-song EP, and in fact, I played a tune for David on tour, and he said, I got to sing on this. And so I brought out a little portable, mic pre and microphone and got him into a hotel room on one of our days off, and he sang on the song "Salt, Sand, and Sky Blue."
Oh.
And, yeah, just so sweet.
Yeah.
And I also I'm a producer and an arranger, composer. I don't necessarily advertise that way, but I'm pretty good at it. And in fact, during COVID, I was busy through the entire length of COVID with projects that I was producing for people. And because I'm adept as a multi-instrumentalist, I'm able to do everything here, including drums, between playing percussion myself or utilizing Superior Drummer, which is an amazing app that, it's digitally recorded drums, real drums, and then you can create the grooves and it just sounds incredible. Or getting drum tracks to other musicians that I know who can, I'd love, or say a client wants to have a specific player. Billy Payne, I've done some tracks with from Little Feat. Billy played on some of my projects, and Kenny Aronoff played on some of my projects. And, so it's very exciting to be in this technological age now. And I'm so thrilled that I took the time to learn how to work with Pro Tools and learn how to be an engineer. And I have a very dear friend who's a fantastic mixing engineer who gave me a bunch of his recipes. This is what I do for my drum buses. This is what I do for this. This is what I do for that. And then I could also send him mixes, and he'd kind of go, hey, more 10K on the kick drum or whatever it was he would say, which was a thrill for me. And now that I've been doing it for a number of years, I have the ability to mix records. It's not like I'm a, Alan Parsons, but for people who have a modest budget, it's all in house. I could do it all here, and that way.
You're based in Oregon. Is that
I'm
right?
based in Southern Oregon. Yep.
And in that way, I'm sorry to interrupt you. In that
That's
way.
fine. No. It's all good. I'll work with people all over the planet because they'll just send me stuff. Like I can take a demo that someone is playing acoustic guitar and singing, and I can do all the tracks here, for that. And what's even better is if they send me a separate vocal and guitar part to a click, and I could build the entire track. And then if they want to redo their vocal later, they can. I can also create harmony parts from their vocal using Melodyne. So it's pretty crazy what's possible these days, And again, there's all different schools. Some people just want to be in the room with 5 players or 6 players or whatever, and great, or they'll do that and then they'll send me tracks and I'll overdub my guitar at home and send it on. There's no rules. Right. I love the saying, the only limitation is your imagination.
Right. Absolutely. Well, it seems like the flexibility of what you're describing is so attractive to most musicians, because we're fortunate if we have a group to play with on a regular basis, but getting everybody in the same room and the time that it takes and just having all the other, it is cost prohibitive to do that. Right. Knowing that it's not that the song is any less important, but the way music is being consumed these days, you really want to take the most linear approach to the commerce and getting the best song out, because the money that's coming back to you, or for the it's a tricky thing, a balance between commerce and creativity.
Yes, as someone once said, I play music because I have to, not because I want to. Right. And if you're an artist, you have to follow your calling to make art. And I enjoy being able to be of service to people, because I've spent 50 years working hard at it, becoming a pretty damn good musician, and however many years becoming a multi-instrumentalist and producer. And I've done, a number of records for people. One guy, his name is Steve Yannick, Yanek, and he got like top 10, stuff from recent stuff that we've put out there, in a specific genre, which, I'm not in the business of selling music, and I know nothing about that. My interest is making great art and doing whatever I can to make great art. And so if someone sends me a tune, I'm working on it like it's my tune. Right. I can't just phone it in. I'm going to work on stuff. And the thing that's nice about having my own studio, so I can put together an accordion track. If I have to, I can do it one bar at a time if I have to, just because I'm not an accordionist, but I love the sound. Right. So I have two accordions, I have mandolins, I have banjos, I have, fretless basses, I have lap steels, I have a palm pedal lap steel, which sounds like a pedal steel. I have all these different sounds here.
Like one of the Duesenberg laps.
So there's a guy in France, I think. His name is Serrano, David Serrano, Certano, Certano. Go to his website and check this stuff out. So, any of you have seen palm benders before.
Yeah.
So he builds his own contraption that has, I think he probably has more than one, but I saw this online and I contacted him and he told me he was a fan of my music. So he sent me not only the palm bender, but he sent me a beautiful instrument with it on. I was just blown away. So if I'm tuned, there's all different types of tunings that I will use to play slide. And one that's kind of a traditional one is just tuning it to an E chord, right? So there's a bender on the third string and there's a bender on the second string. So the B string and the G string. So I can take the lowest palm and turn the E to an E sus by using that, right? And then I can take the B string and you can tune it any way you want, but put the B string up a whole step and it turns it into a 6 chord. And then you do both at once, it turns, let's just say, from an E triad to an A triad. So, but many of the most traditional types of pedal steel types of bends that guitars try to emulate, instead of having to bend it on the fretboard, you're able to do these things as well as create chords. Whereas, let's say, if you wanted to go an octave above, you don't have to go 12 frets now. You can go 8 frets and turn that B chord into an E chord. So again, there's just all these different toys, sonic toys, ear candy.
Right, yeah.
So having mandolin and having ukulele and having all these, and dobro and all these different sounds at my fingertips, then at any point I can go, oh, what am I hearing? What am I hearing? And I try to, like I was saying before, get out of my own way and let the song talk to me. And it's, between what an artist might have in mind. They might say, hey, what about this or what about that? Or they'll play a song that they would want to emulate, or they'll just say, have at it. Usually I'll send them back a track and they'll go, holy shit. Or they might go, you know what? I love this, but here, can you do that? And it's like, sure, So it's just a process and everyone is different.
Yeah.
But I love it. I love it. I love being able to live in a beautiful place on the planet, because, here in Southern Oregon, I can go out for a hike. If I'm not getting a track, I go out for a hike and I come back and work on it. It's like, oh, there it is,
There is something to be said for that. My wife and I live in an area that's in Raleigh, North Carolina. We're right off the Falls Lakes. We're right by a lake, and there's but there is something to be said for being exposed to that. And I think as we grow older, we get more in tune with that thing.
Yes.
Simpler things like the allure of just relaxing in front of a fire, having a beverage, sitting out on the deck, just being by the lake. And the idea of quiet is just beautiful. Although with most of us, we have the tinnitus thing going on. I don't know if you deal with that at all, but that.
Ask my wife. Whether it's tinnitus or just standing in front of a stack of Marshalls or whatever amplifiers loud, it's just about exposure, I guess. But I'm not I'm not, it's been all worth it. And I think I'm still doing okay. My mixes, I've been told my mixes are really good. So you have to be able to hear to mix.
Yeah.
But I love what you're saying, and I totally get it. And, a very important person in my life years ago said to me, Jeff, you don't have to spend 10 hours a day playing guitar. You go take a walk out in the woods and then see how that's going to influence your music, and it's,
Yeah.
you could bang your head against the wall, so many times trying to get the lick, and then
Right.
you got to get away from it. And then, oh man, it's not as hard as I thought, so it is about balance, and
Yeah.
creativity and art is, I think the ultimate art is when the art is echoing the richness that you have in your life. And
Right.
so as
Yeah.
we age, or as we evolve, or as we learn, it's not just older people who like to get outside. We hopefully bring in the treasures of being a human being, as well as the pain,
Right.
and bring that into our art.
Yeah. I read an interview with Jim Hall that says exactly what you're talking about. He was giving a performance and then a master class, and he had some guys that were just asking about substitutions and tritone substitutions and playing over, and he kind of stopped and he said, while all of that is great, he said, what is going to drive your playing to a richness is going to the museum,
Yeah.
looking at art, looking at architecture, getting out in nature, looking at all the
Yeah.
things that are around you. And then once you've assimilated all that,
Yeah.
let that infuse. And for a lot of the students in attendance, it was just like way, like what?
Yeah.
Because the younger person is thinking in terms of, okay,
The rabbit.
I got to stay on the grid.
Right.
I want to sound like Schofield, or I want to sound like whomever. I got to know exactly the formula to get from A to B.
Yeah. The keys to the kingdom. Yeah.
Right. But yeah, and actually, even when I read that, I probably didn't fully appreciate it. That's probably been 15, 20 years ago. I don't think I appreciate it like I do now. Like that,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's a
Well,
lot to that.
and that's what happens, I think, as we develop our consciousness as human beings. When you're a kid, you're just tunnel visioned, got a date, or got to learn guitar, or whatever it is that you're, crazy about and obsessed with. And then as you acquire things and you get a wider vocabulary of what it is that satiates your appetite as a human being, then I think you allow yourself to develop other needs that will feed this appetite and inspire you. Because you keep doing the same thing over and over, it's going to get boring. You want to continually widen your swath of what it is you do as a creative being. And that is one of the things that I love about producing, that it's not just trying to come up with the greatest guitar part. It's like, your mind expands to all these different things. And especially, with manipulating recorded sound, that's a whole other beautiful possibility, when you're dealing with, okay, this bass guitar and this kick drum, they can't have the exact same blah blah blah. How do I make these work together? And it's just pretty exciting, to have that type of availability in the room in my house.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, it's not to say that will replace going to the great studio and the killer engineer who's done it their whole life. I can't compete with that. But that being said, when the record's made, the people are listening to the content. They're not listening to the studio. They're not listening. You know what I mean? It's just like, it could be done anywhere. During COVID or whatever, you see these tapes of somebody making something in a subway with a iPhone, and it's killer.
Right. Yeah.
So it's the performance, it's the content.
Yeah. Steven Spielberg says, regardless of what your budget is, I mean, it's the narrative and telling a story. And you can tell a story with an inexpensive acoustic guitar and a little
Yes.
Zoom,
Yep.
and as
Yep.
long as you're getting and there's so many exciting things out there now, even on Netflix with some of the independent movies that are being made. Or I feel like for us, we're very fortunate that we don't really have to, if we don't want to, we don't really have to listen to anything new. We can if we want to, but there's so much that we've missed. So
Right.
many nuggets, so many little gems that I
Yes.
discovered and go, oh my gosh. Or I am in, before we get too far, I'm really curious about the Sky Trails band and how that evolved, because I got to see the performance with Jason Isbell. And
Oh, cool.
oh man, it's just so yeah. So I'm just curious about how that was the next phase in the evolution of your
Trajectory. CPR was the late 90s, early 2000s. And, shortly thereafter, I was playing with Phil Lashent and Friends and Jazz is Dead and a bunch of other things. And I would kind of come in and out of, and then Crosby, Stills and Nash. I was playing with Crosby, Stills and Nash like 2005. We went into the studio with Crosby and Nash and to do their last record. And I'm very proud because I have a song that I had started with Graham Nash. And when I heard they were going to go into the studio, I really wanted to finish this song. And it was the title of the song is called Jesus of Rio. And I was doing a benefit. I got called to do a benefit at the mall in front of the White House with Graham and David. And it was a cancer benefit. And there were all kinds of other people on the bill, including Aretha Franklin. I had a chance to meet her. And the night before, Graham said, I've got a song idea. And he had a melody. You are standing on top of the world with the rich on one side and the poor on the other, talking about the Corcovado that stands above Rio, the Jesus statue or whatever. And I came up with chords immediately, and as years went by, we kept on kind of revisiting it. And when I found out they were going to do this record, I was dead set to finish this thing. So I did, from various trips, we were sending ideas back and forth over the internet. I would come up with a bridge, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, all of the music on the song is mine and it's his lyrics. And I'm telling you this story because this is kind of the last chapter of before the Sky Trails bands. And it's a story that is near and dear to me. So they recorded this song. We went in the studio and it's Dean Parks, who's also playing guitar on the track. And Leland Sklar and Russ Kunkel, James Raymond, David's son, and David and Graham singing the vocals. And they decided to get James Taylor to sing third harmony on the song.
Yeah, why not? Just get you.
Yeah. So, and I had played with James before. I played on one of his records and we'd become, acquaintances and friendly. And whenever I'd see him, he'd give me a hug. So, another childhood dream come true. But, and I went in the studio, on one of his records. But so that opportunity, was just a thrill for me to be a co-writer with Graham Nash on a song, on a Crosby Nash record, and James Taylor sang on it. And it's on the net. I know that on YouTube, you can listen to it for free. So the bane of our songwriting existence, they're trying to make a living being a songwriter. Oh, it's there for free. Just listen to it. So after that Crosby Nash thing, I kind of, I think there was a natural evolution of James Raymond, David's son, the R and CPR, kind of taking over David's production needs. And they are an incredible songwriting team and a beautiful opportunity to kind of really continue their connection. And so I was not playing in the band for quite some time, and it was disappointing because I love them. But in understanding how art needs to grow and change and morph, and understanding that their relationship needed time to be what they were like without me there, because I will admit I'm a bit of a strong presence, whether it's what I added to David's music on stage, because he gave me room to kind of be the guitar guy. And a lot of his early music, whether it was Stephen Stills or whatever, it was very like the guitar and the vocal would be somewhat considerable, a considerable voice, the lead guitar, and he would let me play, So I think I know that they enjoyed, this opportunity to work with other people and blah, blah, blah. So it had been many years and I was pining a little bit because I love David. We have a great connection. And my wife and I have this beautiful home in Oregon, and we live in this fantastic place that we rent that we could fit 90 people in the living room to do house concerts. And we've been doing them monthly when we can, when I'm not on tour, all before COVID. And we also put together a side project called Zepdrix, playing the music of Zeppelin and Hendrix. And my wife would sing Zeppelin and I would sing Hendrix. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because we had a New Year's gig and our drummer, who usually played in the band, couldn't make it. And I called Steve DeStanislaw, who is the drummer on CPR, who toured with us with, the CPR band, who toured with Crosby, Nash, who also, when they were playing in London, David Gilmour came backstage and said to David, "Great gig. I'm stealing your drummer." And he did. Stevie D went to play with David Gilmour for 10 years. But anyway, Stevie D and I, Steve DeStanislaw, but nicknamed Stevie D, and I've remained very close. And I called him. I said, "Hey, man, is there any interest? You'd like to come up and play this New Year's gig playing Zeppelin and Hendrix?" He's like, "Yeah." So he came up for about a week and we hung and we rehearsed and we did the gig. 2 days later, 3 days later, I think while he was here, he got a phone call to do a session with David on his Sky Trails record. And when they were in the studio, David said to Steve, "I want to tour with this band, the Sky Trails band. Who should we call for guitar?" And Stevie's like, "I just played with Jeff and he is playing his butt off and you should call him. He would love to play with you." So David called me. So to answer your question, and it's a long answer, to get back involved with Sky Trails band, which is the band that he called with Michelle Willis on keyboards. Originally, Mai Agan, the bass player, changed her name to Mai Lease because she married Greg Lease, the guitar player with Jackson Browne. Stevie D on drums, James Raymond on keyboards, myself on guitar. So Sky Trails band went out and did a number of tours, and it was such a thrill for me to be back with David because, I just love the man. I mean, we always had a great connection. And because David and James had done a number of tours with other guitar players and all great players. And, anyway, David and I have a rapport over many years, from playing trio with Graham to CPR to all these other things. And when I got back in the band, I was just like so excited. And after the first gig, Crosby comes up to me after the first show. He puts his arm around me. He goes, "Peeve, we tried for years to find someone to fill your shoes and there just ain't nobody." And that was such a sweet thing to say. And again, all these other guitar players and musicians he played with are all fucking great players, but we had a rapport over decades, so that kind of thing, it's somewhat unspoken, and it's like getting on a bicycle when you haven't ridden it for a couple of years. "Oh yeah, this bicycle feels great," So Sky Trails band toured, and it was lovely to have two women in the band, which would really keep Crosby in a better behavior than sometimes his cantankerous little devil would, come out maybe a little less. When people said to me, "What's David Crosby like?" I would often say, "Well, David's an interesting number of people." Um, and so there was that Cheshire cat, just beautiful, starry-eyed guy who just loved everything, to a curmudgeon who could be really, sometimes volatile. And that's unfortunately why some of his friendships didn't last. But I had a lot of patience, and I also had a couple opportunities where I called a band meeting and told him in front of the band that he can't do that, or I'm going to be on the next plane. And he respected that. So you do what you got to do. At a certain point, you got to draw a line in the sand, or people will, know that they could kind of do whatever they want to do at any time. And if I was 30, I wouldn't say anything. But, when I'm where I am now in my life, I just said, look, I choose my friendships wisely. I don't do volatility.
Well, at that point, it's like you guys are brothers, and brothers are going to have their issues, and he respected that, and he loved you like a brother. And
yes,
if you're going to call him out on something, those words would ring much louder from you than anybody else.
I think so, and that was why I wanted to do it in front of the whole band, because not only did I want let's just say the strength of the brotherhood, or the brother sisterhood, right? It was an opportunity for me to let David know that anyone who he respects and works with should be treated with that type of respect. I just said, do you have a problem? Just talk to me like a friend. You don't yell, you don't do this stuff, this volatile stuff. I don't do that, So it was, I'm proud of myself. It was a great opportunity, because I've seen him be that way, and I've 9 times out of 10 just, not say anything, or here he goes again, or whatever. But it was just a testament to how close we were. And yeah, fuck, I'm just sad he's gone. It's just hard. Fuck, sorry. Anyway, it is what it is. I will say this one thing that I'm so thrilled about. So about 6 months ago, he called me. He had just listened to, and this is out of the blue, he called me and left me a voicemail, saying, I just listened to CPR, and I listened to this song and that song and this. He goes, Jeff, I love you, man. I just love the way that your musicianship, the way you play, blah, blah, blah. You just did such a fucking great job with CPR. And I just wanted you to know that. Oh my God. I forgot I had this message, and I was going through my messages the day after he died and saw it. And I felt like he was like contacting me from beyond, to like massage my heart, and I have cried so much in the last week that I'm a little bit cried out. So I've allowed myself to feel the depth. And now I'm in a place where it's exciting me to actually write stories, and I've been posting them on Facebook.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed reading those. Just because I started reading a couple after we had spoken. I was like, oh yeah, that's just so sweet.
Well, it's part of my processing the sadness. And so just to remember the good times, and just try to be of inspiration to others, because a lot of people have been with me in mourning. And I think some of these stories help people kind of just feel a little closer to him and to it and to us. And what an honor for me. I'm just a kid who, listened to Crosby, Stills and Nash, with stars in my eyes. Oh my God. I mean, I'll never forget the time I heard that first record. It was just like, oh, God speaking to us, to our hearts, direct connection. And then years later, I'm on stage and I'm writing songs with them. Oh my God. So I'm still that little kid, I still have to pinch myself. And at the same time, I honor that, well, I must have something to offer this. And what a beautiful thing for anyone in the world. Every person has something to offer a situation, whether it's your relationship or, your job or your passion or whatever. So if you apply yourself to follow your dreams, your passions, it is possible. At least I've proven that to myself.
Right.
And I'm so grateful. I'm
Yeah.
just so ever grateful for all the things that have happened.
Yeah. We could probably go another couple hours. This has been just an absolute treat because we're
Thanks,
talking
man.
about stuff that's so near and dear to me, and there's so many stories. I saw one as an epilogue. I saw a video of you and Greg Koch at the NAMM show,
Uh-huh.
and it was just so much damn fun. Even though I'm
Oh,
watching a video from a couple years ago, just
yeah.
it was like I was, and you're maybe the only player that I've ever heard that I would say is kindred spirits with Greg in terms of having that kind of joyful play
Mm.
where you're able to just completely get beyond the fact of the wire, the wood, and all that kind of stuff, and play things that were just really just nasty, but also goofy and playful and silly. And that
Oh,
you and Greg together, I felt like, man, I just want to hear more of that kind of stuff. I'd love to hear you guys do like Because We Ended as Lovers
yeah.
or any Natural Woman or the two of
Yeah.
you together, and then conversely, what you did with Cooch was just incredible too. It was just
Oh, man.
anyway. We could go on and on, and
No,
so
look, man,
thankful for.
your words mean so much to me. It's interesting because fortunately, one of the things Crosby said to me, and I used to have it on my old website, to be that talented and not a jerk, he'll be my friend my whole life. And I don't, it's impossible to kind of really grasp what you do for other people, because you're in the midst of just doing what you do and you offer out what you can at any given time. And like I said, in regards to the getting to that more spiritual place of like getting out of the way and letting the music take you, you get on stage with Greg Koch, a guy who can play that incredible. You can't try to try. You can't try. You can't try to do anything. You can't outdo anything for a guy like that. All you can do is meld and try to, or let's say, let the joy in you and the celebration of the love you have for the instrument and the intimacy that you have for the instrument and the ability to express yourself through the instrument, which is something he does so incredibly well, almost like nobody I've ever heard. And he's just a beautiful guy who I can feel he genuinely enjoys playing together and enjoys me as a person. So I'm very grateful, for all of these opportunities. In the last few months, I've contacted a number of my favorite musicians to go see them play, and would also say, and by the way, if you want, I can bring a guitar. And so I got on stage with Martin Sexton, who is, if you're not
Yeah, oh
familiar
yeah,
with
oh
Martin
yeah,
Sexton, I mean,
amazing.
he's just a
Yeah,
total channel and just one of the most amazing singer-songwriter, guitar player singers in the world, in my book.
yeah.
I staged with him. I did the same with Tommy Emmanuel. Oh my God. And he let both of them let me, bring GoPros so I can film it just in case I had a good night. Because if I didn't, never post it,
Right, yeah, right.
And then and I'm going to see Bruce Coburn on Monday, and I'm going to go sit in with him.
Wow, that's awesome.
So, look, I'm at a point in my life where I realize, we're not here forever.
No.
And I love this idea, like I had said before, about trying to get away from the ego,
Mhm.
that we all have this gift to share. I mean, everyone in the world has the gift that is who they are. And I'm so thrilled and grateful that music is a way for me to not only express this crazy amount of electricity and passion I have in my gut and what I've worked on for years to try to become a communicator through music, but that not only can it inspire others, but heroes of mine will allow me to come up and
Yeah.
see how it goes,
Right.
so
Right.
very
Yeah.
exciting. to
Yeah.
put myself in the hot seat, because it is. I mean, to get on stage with Tommy Emmanuel or Greg Koch or Martin Sexton, it's like, oh my God, there's that little kid in me who goes, what the hell are you doing? And then there's the other guy who goes, yeah, there's only 12 notes. It's got to be one of them.
That's right. And to the folks that are coming into this and not heard of either of you or one of you,
Yes.
to hear the interplay between the two, they're through the musician or through the music lover's ears. They're not holding up scorecards. It's not like,
No.
the Olympics. It's
Good point. Good
Billy
point.
Crystal's joking when Harry met Sally, and my mother, dressed as an East German judge, gave me a 5.0 for my dismount when watching me have sex.
Yeah, right. It's a great point. It's a great point.
Yeah, so it's just it's a communication, and that video of you and Greg was the way that you were loving and listening to each other. You were having as much fun listening to what he was playing as playing it yourself. It was just a real joy. And
yes.
I see so many Shredfest things, which is great. I mean, I don't mind hearing any of it, but when you hear something like that, it's like something from a bygone era, just two players that are just having so much joy.
That means a lot, man. I got to say, it means a lot, because, having the gumption to get on stage with a guy like that, it takes a certain amount of chutzpah, as my lineage would say. But also, like you say, it's not like, I mean, there's going to be people who judge you, and I know that. And I judge myself, and I'll see performances of myself and I go, God, I shouldn't have played so many notes, or, I should have just relaxed or whatever, because, often you can say more with less, but at the same time, I've also gotten to a point where I accept my humanity. I accept the fact that I'm not perfect. I accept the fact that I might go for something and it doesn't totally reach the zenith, and that's okay. Because as my friend Stevie D said, what's the worst that could happen? Somebody wasn't entertained.
Oh man, this has been fabulous. And you've always been on a bucket list of mine to talk to, and man, this is wonderful. And typically when I put these together, at the beginning there'll be like 30 seconds of music. I was wanting to use the song Morrison. Does that resonate with you? I mean, as far as
whatever you want.
Okay.
There's a piece of video that is from our CPR documentary. I don't know if you've seen that, but it is online. And David kind of says, I heard Jeff, I wanted to play with him from the first 6 notes or whatever. And that's a beautiful little, nod, if you will, from the great beyond. It's hard to believe, but anyway, however you decide you want to do it, I really appreciate spending time with you. And I also appreciate you giving me an opportunity to get some of this energy out that I'm in this morning trajectory of turning the morning into celebration by just feeling so much gratitude for the time spent with David. And I love the idea that, the baton's passed and we all take what he gave us and we move forward with it. So thank you for giving me that opportunity.
My pleasure. Looks like you guys are going to be playing in my hometown in May, and at Cincinnati at the Woodward Theater. So we'll have
the Gilmore Project.
Yeah, looks like we'll have to make a road trip back home.
Oh, text me. And I'll arrange tickets for you. Okay.
Yeah, the band, the Pink Floyd group that I play with, we rehearse in Cincinnati and then go out and do shows. So in fact, we're up in your hometown area at the Schubert Theater in Connecticut.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Good for you. What's
Signs of Life, the American Pink Floyd. We're doing a 50th anniversary of Dark Side of the Moon. It's a 8 or sometimes 9-piece group, but we do the big 16-foot video screen, and
great.
My rig is synchronized to the click track, so I've got a RJM system very similar to Jason Isbell's. I became friends with the guitar tech for Dream Theater. helped me kind of design the rig. So now the click track, the computer that drives our
Yeah.
film and lights changes the
Jeez.
patches, because I have to sing all the tunes. We have backing vocals. I have to sing all the Gilmore and Roger Waters stuff. I just don't have the ability to, and all my pedals are, I'll send you a photo of the rig. It's wildly elaborate and takes 3 people to move.
Well, send me a photo of the rig, but send me some links so I can hear what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I'll do that.
I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, I can't wait to see you guys. I think it's in May. So
it's a little lackluster, but it's lackluster in a way that is intentional. That it's it's there's all different ways, as they say, to slice the pie, and some of it, look, it's hard for me to judge myself and this and that and what we do. Hopefully it's something that you'll enjoy.
Oh, I'm sure I will.
It's not as polished as what you're explaining it to be, but
there's completely serving 2 completely different schools of thought.
Yeah, it is. And look, I just I have so much respect for you and anyone who takes puts that much care and prep into a performance. It sounds incredible, and I'd love to see it. So kudos to you for doing the work that you're doing. And it's kind of interesting that we're playing similar music, because we're also playing the 50th anniversary of Dark Side, including songs like Echoes and Dogs and some of these other pieces. So it's exciting.
We swing way into the post Roger Waters stuff, the David Gilmour stuff when he was the band leader, the Momentary Lapse Reason and Division Bell. But it really is more, I think of it as more as theater, and in the sense of all the songs are segued together, and there's really no hard stops typically. And every song has a screen film, so we're trying to replicate a thing, and it's not really about the personalities on stage so much.
Yes.
So, but it's for an audience of folks that do want to see it and
it's
get
fantastic.
it. But given the fact that we don't have the multi-billion-dollar budget of some of the other bands that are out there doing it,
right?
We're chasing that, but we're in 15 years, and I keep talking to my wife: is this the year that we land this thing? Is this So we go back and forth about it, but the allure is so great to keep doing it. It's like
people love that music, and that's fantastic. Good on you, man. And again, I'd love to see what you're doing. So send me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, man. You're just such a delight and such an engaging conversationalist. I just had a feeling that what you had to say was as beautiful as you're playing. So thank you.
Thank you, brother. I so appreciate it. And like I say, at this time right now, I'm kind of an open wound, if you will. So, but I try to kind of just be accessible with my, with how I express myself and how I treat others, because we're just all fortunate to be doing what we're doing, to live in this country, to have the freedoms that we have. I just think about the people, overseas or going through wars, and oh my God, we're just so fortunate to have what we have. So, I love this idea, besides going after my own joy, to be of service to others. And that's one of the reasons why I take great pride in doing these things, because of course I have stories to tell that I'm quite proud of over the years of my dedication to my craft, but also if others may gain some joy or gain some inspiration from that, I feel like it's the icing on the cake to share my wealth of my experience with others who might be interested in listening to it. So thank you for that opportunity.
I hope you and your wife have a wonderful weekend. I'll as soon as I get this together, I'll send that to you, and also send you some links to what we're up to.
Please do.
Have a great weekend, Jeff.
All right, brother.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the Guitar Hang Podcast, interviews with noteworthy guitar players from around the world. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications to stay updated on our latest episodes.